cycle. That's all samsara is. It's an uncontrolled cycle of birth and death due to our karma. It's our past actions that are propelling us again and again in this not great situation.
Is that linear?
No. It's like I've been a mosquito, since its beginningless time. Probably a lot, often. Also, the lifespan's not very long. You can do that again and again and again. But, this is what I wanted to say a minute ago. Human beings, the cause for having a human rebirth is practicing ethics, morality. So everybody in this room, everybody on all 7 billion human beings on the planet had ethics that ripened as a human rebirth in this life. So it's in their past. They've done, actions that were ethical to the point of creating the cause to be born human. Everybody. Hitler did that. But he's still stuck in samsara. He also had other habits. We all have them. As you know, just because you, yeah.
In your present life and go back to a false sense of releasing yourself.
Yes, directly, pronunciation, lots of you can understand how refine that view to being without and be liberated from samsara. You can't go back. It's irreversible. Okay. That's another good news. Enlightenment is irreversible. So enlightenment in this tradition, the Mahayana tradition, just says you've gotten out of samsara, but not only that, you now have perfected the point to where you become omniscient. So you can actually benefit others. So the first stage is liberation from samsara, then you have a little more work to do and you become enlightened. You just remove all the obstacles to being omniscient, which means
That's separating samsara to samsara.
Samsara is out of control rebirth. Yeah. You don't cease to exist because that continuum of mind has no beginning, no end. What you cease to do is have ignorance, misunderstanding how things exist. It is from that ignorance that all our incorrect states of mind arise, like self-preservation. The fact that we would kill someone else in order to protect this body is based on this idea that we'll cease to exist if this body dies. So somebody you don't like. Remember the scene in the movie, because I didn't see it in real life, in Gandhi, where they're, protesting, I don't know, the salt tax or something, but, so these groups of people keep going up to the police people, and they keep getting beaten, and then the next group just comes, and no one hits back. So because you've put the practice of nonviolence above self-preservation, you're able to tolerate the physical harm that you're receiving for a different purpose. Does anybody know what I'm referring to? don't remember that scene. It's intense, isn't it? According to the Buddha, there's absolutely no reason to protect this body other than the fact that we're in a perfect human rebirth at this moment. So this is an opportunity to really understand our minds. So you want to protect this life for that sake, but you might not necessarily want to protect it at the expense of someone else's life. Yeah.
What about the sake of preservation of like reproducing, trying to have children? If you have the idea that you want to give them the ability to go through some sort, or is that just?
Oh, you don't want to get. We're
Well,
all
okay,
stuck in
that's
samsara. That's not. But like so having children. It's just the method through which beings who are stuck in samsara gain a human resource. It's all interdependent. That just happens to be the method that we have a human rebirth in this universe, or on this planet. We don't really know about the other planets, but on this one anyway, that's how you get a human rebirth. It's by two people of age, their bodies are capable of reproducing, having sex and having children. That's how you get a human rebirth, a physical body on this planet. Now, monastics don't bother. If there were no way to have a human rebirth without that form of reproduction, a human rebirth would just look like something else. A human rebirth, a precious human rebirth, just means you have the kind of physical support for your mind and the conditions for you to be able to use that mind in a way that you can actually change your mind, realize emptiness, become enlightened. Yeah.
Does that child produce some sort of karmic thing?
Yeah, they had ethics, so they got a human rebirth.
But is it something to do with the parents' karmic? What gets produced?
Yeah.
Like who that child is from your own?
Well, you have your karma, and they have their karma. The parents and the children have separate karmas.
Okay.
They are interdependent.
So it's not like when your mom says you're going to get what you gave me when.
Oh, it's probably true. Because what goes around comes around, right?
I'm just wondering if that's
If they created the cause, yes, that's karma. I mean, it's just that we tend to think in terms of instant karma, whereas the Buddha says it's not instant. We are all interdependent, interactive, interconnected. So our parents of this life, perhaps were our children in some previous life, because there are no new minds being created. All of our minds have always existed. They're always changing form. So in anybody that requires parents, which most bodies that we know of in this world, but not all, but amoebas don't need parents, created the cause to be born in that body, and that seed from that imprint that was placed on the mind. It's a big topic, or fruit. So, yeah.
So theoretically, if everybody stopped reproducing, wouldn't that stop some
Yeah.
harm?
Yeah.
What would happen?
Well, you think just all the people created the cause to be a human being would be born somewhere else. We are creating our experience. This is why it's a huge topic. And so karma is a whole course on its own because it is huge. But everything we experience, we create the cause for. So all of us together have some collective karma to be in this room at this time. All of us have the collective karma to be born on that planet that looks like ours. That has the experiences we have, the wars and the poverty and the good stuff. you know. We're born in a country that at the moment has pretty good conditions with food, you know, whatever. So, but not everybody in this country has good conditions. But basically, we're just all we're fish and ants and, you know.
So if animals don't have good bodies and brains for practice, how are they able to?
Because at the time of death, they have a condition that ripens that causes them immortality. You know, like all of our this human life has a lifespan, doesn't it? When it ends, that means that karmic seed that came, you know, that caused our birth has ended. It's exhausted. At the time of death, a new karmic seed ripens for the next life. If you're, say, at that moment of death, you're about to shoot someone, but they shoot you first, and you die, but you're really, you know, so you're this angry, aggressive, you know, your next birth might be a tiger. Does that make any sense? It's big.
It's interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of thinking about because it's basically saying that our habits of mind, the reason why we talk a lot about habits of mind is that at the moment of death, the state of our mind is going to be similar to our most, you know, it's most likely to be similar to the other states of mind we had up to that moment of death because of habit. So if you have practiced a lot of anger in your life, at the time of your death, you might be angry. That won't be such a great state of mind to have at the time of your death. Because anger wants to harm. So that's a good condition to have, like an animal rebirth that is not vegetarian, say, for example. So all you do, you have to kill directly to survive. And it's not linear in the sense that once you're a human, you'll always be a human. It's not like that.
How can you tell what you're trying to work out in this life?
There's no one's telling you you just look at your life. Basically what they say is if you want to know how you have been in the past, look at what's happening in your experiences. If you want to know how your future is going to be, look at your mind. So if you just continue to have the same kind of thoughts you've always had, you know, and you reactive, but I mean, it just depends on who you are. And there isn't some like list, oh, in this life you need to work out this. We basically all have the same, if we're stuck in samsara, we sort of all have the same list. It's just different titles. For example, I need to work on patience. I'm a very impatient person, but not inherently. I just practiced impatience for a very, very, very long time. I've made great progress, and I'm still very, very impatient.
So your next life will be less impatient,
No.
or maybe less impatient.
Not if I keep practicing impatience.
But I mean, if you practice trying not to be impatient in this life and don't totally succeed, you'll get some of it in your next life, and you'll be like.
It's not some of it. I'll still have a habit. It just depends on the conditions of my next life. Patience might not come up particularly.
Well, you can turn into an animal that's very impatient.
Yeah.
What type of animal would that be?
I don't know. You have to look. You know. So I'm sure there's some, but I don't know. I mean, you know, but it's kind of, sometimes it's fun to think about those things. Like if you're one of those people that has to be busy all the time, a worker ant comes to my mind. You know? Yeah.
So, like you started, so by practicing on clearing our mind, that clear light that's inherent. Or,
Nothing's inherent.
So, sorry, not inherent. What was it about the clear light?
The basis, you know, sort of like the essence of our mind is just clarity and knowing. It's just our faculty to know, okay? Our thoughts are mental factors disturbing mental factors like anger and greed and all those things distort our mind in negative ways. And what does that lead to? Who's driving the bus?
Thoughts at that point.
Hmm?
Thoughts at that point are driving
Well, which thoughts?
angry, negative thoughts.
The angry negative thought is driving the bus. Okay. What do angry negative minds driving a bus do?
Harmful things.
Harmful things. You know? They might see that person who jumped in the crosswalk even though the light had already changed, you know, and go, I'm not stopping. Our minds drive our actions of body and speech.
So what if you think negative things, but you don't carry them out?
Those negative thoughts are habits. So that you might not carry them out in this life, but if you don't control the mind, eventually you're going to act from those thoughts. It may not be this life, but you're continuing the mental habit of having negative thoughts, which is why it matters how we think about ourselves, why it matters how we think about others. Because we're, you know, it's like if we're just being judgmental all the time, which most of us are, we have, I mean, like, how fast does it take us to form an opinion? You know? Really fast. So, you know, we're just constantly, you know, but then we, every now and then, what do we call people who always seem pleasant? Is it nice? Pollyannas. You can't win for losing, can you? If you're a nice guy, then you're a Pollyanna. Have you seen the British version of Pollyanna? It is a wonderful movie, and it's so Buddhist. Because she is not just positive, she's just looking for the positive side. She completely sees the negative. So I find it really hilarious that that's become the name, that's the label that we give people who we consider insincerely nice. It's so interesting. That's our habit of mind. Our habit of mind is distorting the story to suit the way we believe people are. We create stories all the time. You know, what does research tell us about, you know, when we're reading, you know, an article or watching the news? What do we do if we don't agree with it?
Dismiss to what we believe.
Well, we stop. We don't read, we don't continue reading articles that we disagree with. You might read the first paragraph, but for the most part, people don't even bother. I don't want to hear that. So we have nothing to even challenge our view because we won't look at it. So we need to understand this is why looking at our mind, noticing, oh, I've already decided. I have no open mind here. Just not here. Okay. So no new information can go in because we've already decided it is this way. And we have a tendency, this is where we start to think that things exist inherently. It is this way, it's always going to be this way. That person's just like that. You forget that they have friends, you know, that they have tragedies in their life. You know, so, I'm sorry, but they're jerks. That's it. We do that constantly. And it's based on what people do for us or don't do for us. If they entertain us, we like them. If they help us, we like them. If they have similar points of view, we like them. If they don't have any of those things, we don't like them. We might not hate them. But if they do things that we think harm us or our family members or those we care about, then they become sort of enemies. And they're evil enemies, you know. We no longer can see any of their good qualities. We've decided they're on the other side. It's us and them, mackerel. So this is, this is what we want to explore when we look at our minds. It's just how closed is it? What assumptions are we making? What expectations do we have? Are they realistic? Do expectations even help? What is a setup for future suffering? So if you have that expectation on a family visit, it's going to go differently this year. What do you think you'll notice on that family visit?
Ways that it's going different
You think?
if you're expecting it to.
Maybe both. Maybe the ways that it is the same, but also be open-minded to the ways that it is
Let's hope.
different.
Most of us,
Neutral.
though, just look for proof that it hasn't changed. Oh, there they go again. We don't even see what might be new because we've already got a view. It's always like this, they'll act like this, and that's all we see because we've decided before we even show up. We also might try to have that. I'm not going to have expectations this year that they will act the same as last year. I'm going to be open. And then you start to see new things. So this is but you just look at your mind. Do I have a negative view of what's going to happen? And how is that influencing how I'm acting? Am I even capable of hearing? Like if you have a poor self-image or feel that you're really not competent at your job, you may not hear compliments you're getting. You may just not hear it at all. You'll hear something else because of that mental state that you've got. It influences even what we hear. And this gets back to this idea of feeling. We think it's, pleasant, unpleasant. If we consider, say, criticism as necessarily unpleasant, we've decided that, then we can't hear good suggestions. Because we've just seen it as a bad judgment of our actions. You know what I mean? So all of these things we can change because it's just mind. Mind is totally changeable. We can't change how tall we are. We might not even be able to, there are all sorts of things about the physical universe, all sorts of things about what's happening in our lives we have absolutely no control over. But how we respond mentally, we can take charge of. We can interrupt our habit of responding in a certain way, count to 10, and choose a different response. And so that's why, even if you don't believe in past and future lives, even if you throw Buddhism out the window, but you can immediately reduce your suffering by looking at how you think, by recognizing that some negative habits of mind are getting in your way. Does that make sense? All right, that's enough for tonight. It is a huge time. This is the first course. So we have a course on karma. We have a course on rebirth. We have a course on compassion. We have a course on what? I'm sorry. Transforming problems. That's all about the mind again. All of them are about mind. That's compassion. That's just a fancy word. But bodhicitta. So, emptiness, refuge. I don't know. There are 13. There are 13 classes. So, in this, we've talked about most of them tonight. So, don't think that this massive confusion you're having will stay that way. It's just a starting point. So, any question?
Noticing on this schedule that some of the offerings are labeled as intermediate. Other than this discovering Buddhism, what else on the schedule would be available for a beginner?
Sundays. Sunday mornings are excellent for beginners.
Okay, morning meditation. Okay.
I try not to talk about rebirth a whole lot. I get it.
Yeah, you never did. I did on here on Sundays, and this is why I'm here tonight. Is just get a little more in depth.
Yes,
on
so
Sundays.
Sundays is for people who want to learn how to cope this week. You know, to really, how can we work with our mind right now, to get through this week gracefully? You know, discovering Buddhism is about the teachings. So it's about the whole big view. So it's more challenging in the amount of knowledge. You know, it's just the information is overwhelming. And it's also outrageous. You know, in our culture, really, you know, karma. What do you mean our mind creates our future? You know? Yeah, right. So, you know, that we believe that perhaps with our good fortune. Oh yeah, I'm the cause of this. Our bad fortune, it's their fault. So, you know, I mean, you know, so these are, and it's really outrageous. In case I haven't mentioned the other outrageous thing, there is no creator God in Buddhism. There's no God at all in that sense. You know, Buddhas are not gods. They're ordinary beings just like ourselves who figured it out. You know, they understand reality as it is. They've gotten out of samsara. They have no suffering. Their mind's always in a state of bliss. Because the mind is capable of that. So, that all our disturbances are created from our past actions and our misunderstanding how things exist. You know, as His Holiness says, if we were actually able to visit all the universes that exist, and physics exists, the way we understand physics exists everywhere, we would just have to say, well, that's just the law of physics. If it's different in all the different universes we go, we'd have to say it's karma. That it's, you know, that things are just operating this way because the beings that are inhabiting that place have created the cause for it to act that way. That's how big this view is. It's covering how we exist, not the way it appears to exist to us. So it's kind of outrageous. But it served me well. I mean, this is the thing. I have no realizations. You know, I haven't realized emptiness. I certainly haven't stopped all my negative states of mind by a long shot, you know. And yet, you know, I am a completely different person than when I started in terms of my mind. I think very differently. I am much more at peace. I sleep better every single night. I do a lot less harm. And that means a lot. So my life is really better just from my understanding of the mind. And what is actually happiness and freedom from suffering. So we can't stop our physical suffering, but we can stop the mental suffering we add on to it. You know? So anyway, it works for me. So any other last thoughts, questions? Please write down your questions. When something just crosses your mind and you think, did I hear that right? Write it down, bring it back. You know, if you have a burning question during the week that you just can't stand it, you're going to get my email when I send you the reading. So feel free, you know, to email me back. So, but you know, if you have the time to do the readings, bring back your questions for that. We won't answer them all, but we'll start to develop a little bit more of an understanding, maybe, hopefully. I'm also sending some meditation. Oh yes, there's also an online program from the FPMT, which has a transcript. Well, it actually has the audio, the written transcripts of the audio, meditations, all that kind of stuff. For the whole series, they have these, and you can purchase the online key for $20 from us, and then you'll get the password to go in there, and then you'll have access. In this module, it's the teacher was Tupten Yeshi, which is TY. She was a nun for a long time. She hasn't been a nun for a long time, but she's quite skilled. So that's it just depends on how don't overwhelm yourself with information. You're already going to get a lot, but it's if you have the space for it.
Use this too, that's not able to be here.
Right.
Would that be okay? Would that be overwhelming?
It could be overwhelming if they haven't been exposed to Buddhism at all. They also have Buddhism in a nutshell. They online. They also have meditation. Yeah, they have all of it. I think they have all of it now online. So the website's fpmt.org. I will try to include that in my email. There's also Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, which has a lot of the teachings of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche online. And it's just a wonderful, just like, oh, I'm curious, and you search engine, and there you go. But don't overwhelm yourself with information. Try the readings, that kind of stuff, because you can just burn yourself out if it's too much all at once. But if you're like me, read it all. That's what I did. So don't ever, I took refuge in my days. So, literally days. So you can't go by me. I'm a bad example. So, okay. So meditation. Has anybody never meditated? It's not common. Okay, everybody's had some experience in meditation. Okay, so I'm sitting meditations on I think it's on the continuity of consciousness, as well as mind is knower. So analytical meditations or guided meditations are ways in this tradition that help us get more familiar with the material and to think about it. It's always good to start with a breathing meditation, just settle the mind. Then you go into one of the analytical meditations, to familiarize yourself. The word meditation in Tibetan is gom. This is a gompa. This is a place to become more familiar with the teachings or with our own mind. That's what the purpose of meditation is. Yes.
And you're sending some analytical meditation?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the first time I started doing that, I got a little confused in Nicole taking some guidance. So you read what you send us.
Yep.
And then you meditate on what you just read.
No, the meditations are sort of different.
Okay, so what are you going to send us?
I'm going to send you the readings that are required by the FBMT, and I'm sending you a meditation on the continuity of consciousness and the mind is knower. So those two topics.
Audio guided or?
No, they're just meditations. If you want audio meditations, sign up for the online thing because they have the audio files as well of TY leading the meditations.
And since it's the first class we just mentioned, if anyone is interested in becoming, a teacher or having the full course, they come. This is a start.
Right. So discovering Buddhism is also this whole course thing is a way in order to become certified as a teacher, like for introductory courses, like Meditation 101 and those kind of Buddhism in a nutshell. But that means you have to do all the required reading, take all the tests, and do all the integration exercises. I didn't have to do any of that because I took a more advanced program. So, which basically I did all that. So, but, so people who are interested in that, you let me know and I will make sure you have all the stuff you need for that purpose. But you might find you can't do all the reading while the course is going on or whatever, but you can finish it later. So, but I have to sign off on it. And you can also do that online. They also have an online process for that too. Okay? You all tired of this topic? Yes. Okay. Okay. Please make sure I have your email address. So now, at the end of teachings, we try to kind of go back and remember our motivation at the beginning and be happy that, what? Oh, you're talking out of turn. So right now, we just want to take a moment to rejoice in, the fact that we showed up, that no matter how, messy our minds were or whatever, we can be happy that we just even showed up because we're curious about the mind. Whether you're Buddhist or not is not important. What's important is our desire to understand the mind, because it's through our mind. The more we can train our mind to be gentle, peaceful, kind, loving, compassionate, the better off the whole world is. So it's really a valuable activity, no matter what the reason. So be happy about that. Be happy for the others who did that as well. Really rejoice in all these positive actions. And then we like to take that, according to karma, all of this positive action will result in positive experiences in their future. And so we just want to give that away. So, we just want to dedicate it to other suffering sentient beings until there are no suffering sentient beings left. So everyone has been freed from samsara, or psychic existence. You just take a moment to be generous with your merits. And that includes you, because you're one of the sentient beings who's stuck in samsara. So thank you for your effort and your patience. And drive safely home.
Thanks, Pat.
He was before I took. Did you get this? Yeah.